In this video, I'm going to show you how I built this rather unique bocce ball trolley. It has a separate small compartment for the palino or target ball, as well as a tape measure and some chalk to keep score. I start out at the bandsaw with 3/4 inch milled quarter sawn oak. As you can see, this quarter sawn oak is not an easy cut on the resaw. I am splitting this as close as I can down the middle, trying to get the thickest pieces I can to build the trolley with. I think I ended up with something a little over 5/16 of an inch. After resawing these, I take them to the planer, clean up the saw marks on the one side, and get everything to the same thickness, as I'd mentioned, approximately 5/16 of an inch. I'm back to the bandsaw with some shorter stock material. I'm doing the same procedure, but this time it's for dividing plates that will go inside the trolley. Now with the panels at the proper length, I'm putting in a series of datos here to hold the separation plates. I'm only using the kerf of the saw blade, thus I'm having to move the fence over to accommodate the 5/16 inch thick plates. This is how I determined how big to make the trolley itself. The column of the trolley that holds the bocce balls will be mitered together. Here I am putting 45-degree miters on the sides. The bocce ball trolley on the column has an opening of 1.5 inches wide on 3 sides. This allows me to slowly lower the balls into the trolley, as well as retrieve them without having to pick the trolley up and dumping it upside down. To put in these vertical slits, I first put an 1.5 inch hole at either end. I then, as I say, connect the dots with the jigsaw. After a little cleanup with some sandpaper, I take a 1/8 inch roundover bit and hit both sides of the opening. The front panel needs to be shortened to the bottom of the top dado so that the top of the little box will be able to slide in. It's now time for glue up. I'm using Tight Bond number 3 glue. After the glue dries, I will cut the top box off of the column. You'll see that later. For decoration, and some would say added strength, I'm putting splines along the mitered joints. Here I am cutting the grooves to insert the splines. After cutting the grooves, I then glue in the splines. I'm using a slightly contrasting material, maple, for the splines. While the glue is drying on the splines, I'm going to focus on making a handle. I make the handle just like I cut the vertical strips out of the trolley column. I first bore 2 holes on either side of the hand opening, and then I use the jigsaw to remove the waste. Let's jump momentarily over to the wheels. The wheels I'm using are lawnmower wheels. The axle is a bolt that is affixed to a lock nut. My plan is to epoxy the lock nut into a holder and then affix that holder to the trolley column. Here I am cutting out the octagon shape of the nut. This does not have to be a snug fit, as the epoxy will fill up the void. Jumping back to the trolley column, I can now flush trim the excess material off the spline. Here I am making the final cut to cut the top box off of the column. This will allow me to have grain match when I put it back on. These are always the scariest parts of these projects for me. And I always vacillate between using the table saw, making 4 cuts as here, or just making 1 cut at the bandsaw. This box will just simply sit on top of the column. To hold it in place, I'm going to put 4 little short legs on each corner, and it'll just stay there by friction. To make these corner legs, I first take a piece of stock and put a 45-degree miter on one edge, and then I rip it to the appropriate width. I then take this stock and cut 8 pieces for the corner legs. And then it's a matter of gluing these into place. I take this time as well to glue on a little pull for the sliding top of the box. This is a small piece of stock that's 1/4 by 1/4. I'm now gluing those little attachments that I epoxied the lock nuts in onto the trolley column itself. Now that I have the wheels on, I can position and size what I will call a kickstand to hold the trolley column vertical. As usual, I'm sort of designing as I go here. I'm going to make this kickstand out of 2 pieces. I'll glue the 2 pieces together first and then attach it to the trolley column. The final step before applying an oil finish is to affix the handle. I applied 3 coats of BioShield's hard oil number 9. After the finish is dried, I can now assemble the trolley, putting the wheels on. Now all that's left is load it up and give it a test drive. That's all I've got this time, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. As usual, please subscribe, and until next time, happy woodworking.